A huge news story breaking in the last couple of minutes or so regarding the AEW World Champion CM Punk, who reportedly may have almost decided not to come to Dynamite last night. We have a huge update on his unhappiness in the company, possible heat with Hangman Page, the future of CM Punk and AEW, the future of the AEW World Championship, all this and more in this breaking AEW news story. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of news stories to get into in the world of All Elite Wrestling, and this is a big one. We spoke about this earlier today. CM Punk's strange call out of Hangman Adam Page last night on Dynamite that didn't really go anywhere, came across as sort of heelish, and it was bizarre. And then subsequently Dave Meltzer had said that wasn't planned. CM Punk went off the script, and when something like that happens, you get the journalists online digging a bit deeper. They want to look into this. They want to know what happened. Why did he do that? Is it a storyline plan? Is it someone going into business for themselves? What is going on? And we have a massive update when it comes to CM Punk nearly not showing up to Dynamite this week. Of course, CM Punk, infamous for one of the biggest walkouts in recent professional wrestling history when he walked out of the WWE in 2014, ending his tenure with the company due to injury, frustration, burnout, all of the above, and it's nearly happening again already in All Elite Wrestling if reports are to be believed. So this is just dropped about 10 minutes or so ago at the time of recording right now, and you're going to have to bear with me because it's a really long report, but it's fantastic. Excellent work by Sean Ross Sapp of FightfulSelect.com. Be sure to check it out. Who is reporting that CM Punk may have almost decided not to come to Dynamite last night and has given an update when it comes to this promo that he cut on Hangman Adam Page and the heat that possibly has generated before then leading up to what happened last night. Now, last night on Dynamite, CM Punk challenged Hangman Adam Page to a rematch, but according to the Wrestling Observer, this wasn't planned. Fightful are confirming the report by Dave Meltzer that indeed was not planned. Nobody knew that CM Punk was going to do that. Now, of course, Punk defeated Hangman Page at AEW Double or Nothing earlier this year before being forced away from the ring for several months due to a foot injury. But before that, there was word that CM Punk and Hangman Page were not seeing eye to eye on some of the promo material that had emerged on an episode of Dynamite that built up to their match. I remember at the time there were rumblings and there were reports that Punk wasn't happy with some of the comments that Hangman Page had done, referencing Punk not being liked in the locker room, referencing some of CM Punk's controversies, referencing CM Punk's fallout with his former best friend Colt Cabana. And it was on an episode of Dynamite that Punk didn't appear. He wasn't there. I believe he was away filming or something like that. And because of that, there was possibly some heat, and there were rumors at the time that Punk was voicing his displeasure with what Hangman had said to those higher up in AEW. And this report is essentially confirming that indeed was the truth. Fightful are reporting that it was to the point, this disagreement and this heat that Punk and Hangman had, it was to the point that CM Punk met with AEW higher ups about the context of Hangman Page's promo. Now, Voices of Wrestling had noted at the time that they had heard that Punk had told others after meeting in May that he wouldn't lose to Hangman Page. Think of how wild that is. That is Hulk Hogan territory stuff. That is, I'm not doing the job, brother. That doesn't work for me, brother. After hearing what Hangman Page had said about him in the promo, even if there were plans for Punk to lose that match, and I don't think there were, I think it's Punk flexing a situation that he knew the outcome of. I think CM Punk's in a very fortunate position in AEW that Tony Khan is very transparent with him as to his plans for the next several months or even a year or so. So Punk knew he was winning that match anyway, but it's a flex. Certainly it's a flex by CM Punk to those around him going, I'm not losing to Hangman Page. If you get any ideas about changing your mind, I'm not putting him over for what he said. It's Shawn Michaels Bret Hart territory of, well, because of what you said, I'm never going to put you over. That's what it got to. And again, Punk was always going to win the match at Double or Nothing, so it didn't really matter, but it's not necessarily the attitude you want from CM Punk. But I guess also from Punk's perspective, it's not the attitude you want from the person that's not beneath you, but your opponent you're trying to elevate. the person that's got less tenure than you. You're meant to be the veteran, you're meant to be the elder, and you're being disrespected by someone when they're not even at the show. That's a sign of cowardice, is it not? Now, Fightful have been told, and they are reporting by several within AEW, that they felt the situation that unfolded on the August 17 episode, that being the episode last night on TBS, was unfair to Hangman Page if he wasn't aware of it. One said, quote, "Even if he was aware of it, what would he have done? Charged to the ring past Tony? Interrupted a promo he knew he wasn't supposed to be a part of? There was no way Hangman could have won in that situation." And that is true too. What can Hangman do in that situation? CM Punk, and again, this is why I said it earlier today, I said, if that was scripted, and obviously it wasn't, we now know that it wasn't, but if that was scripted, you would go, well, that's a very heelish move. Only a heel calls out someone when they know they're not there to respond, or they know they're not going to respond. So it wasn't a heel character, but it certainly feels like a real life heel, does it not? Calling out someone, like it's like a phony tough guy kind of situation, isn't it? I call someone out knowing that they're not going to respond. I say to someone, go on then, punch me in the face, knowing that they can't and they're not going to punch me in the face. Anyone can be a tough guy when they know what's going to happen, or rather they know what's not going to happen. And what wasn't going to happen was Hangman Page coming out there. So everyone can look big and strong in the absence of knowing the finish, as it were. And again, it did make Hangman Page look bad, and it did embarrass him in his hometown. That is next level stuff. It's one thing to do that on national television anyway. I said it earlier today. I don't like to use the word buried because I hate the word buried in pro wrestling. It's so overused, but this was a bit of a burial. This was a guy of saying, come out, rematch. Oh, I know you're not going to come out, so I can say you're a coward. And that's what he did on national television in front of his hometown crowd. He called him a coward when he knew he wasn't going to come out. And I would argue, who's the coward in that situation? Because to me, the coward is the one that knows the guy isn't going to come out but challenges him to a fight anyway. That's the guy that tries to look like a tough guy, in my opinion. Now, Fightful are told, and they are reporting, that Hangman Page was in the building, but I haven't heard that he responded in any particular way. Those that Fightful have spoken to said that Hangman isn't a confrontational person and is generally well-liked among the roster. So I guess basically implying there that if this was going to get to a situation where people were to pick sides, as it were, and the problem is with pro wrestling and life nowadays, everyone's got to pick a side, haven't they? You can't live in the middle anymore, which is unfortunate. But if it was going to get to that point, it feels like that certainly Hangman Page would have more people on the roster that like him than CM Punk, but I don't think CM Punk particularly does care about that, to be honest with you. Now, the belief among those on the roster that Fightful spoke to before this report was published was that Punk believed Hangman went into business for himself leading into their Double or Nothing match, and that Punk may have seen the August 17 promo last night as a, quote, receipt. And I did think that. I must be said, I thought that as well. It's a traditional wrestling thing, as if you wrong someone or someone stiffs you in a match, you don't sometimes give them the receipt straight away. Those veterans, sometimes they wait. And of course, CM Punk wasn't even at the show when Hangman said those things about CM Punk. And maybe Punk thought, okay, I know I'm winning the match at Double or Nothing. Okay, so I'm not going to get my receipt in that match. I'm not going to get my receipt in the build-up to the match because I still want to win the belt. I don't want to do something so ridiculous that I don't end up winning the belt. That must be said as well. So he thought, okay, I'm not going to do something straight away. I'm going to do something afterwards. The issue is, for Punk, there was really no afterwards. He wrestled on the Dynamite, the following episode of Dynamite. They got injured, and then he relinquished. Well, he didn't relinquish. He had to go away on the following episode of Rampage. So he didn't really have time to deliver his receipt. And then, of course, he came back last week after the main event between Moxley and Jericho. He's not going to sit there and bury Hangman Page on television just as he comes back because the attention would go off CM Punk. It would go to Hangman Page. So this was really the first time that CM Punk could deliver a receipt if he wanted to, and it was the first thing he did. So make no mistake, the whole time that CM Punk was away, rehabbing his foot, the whole time building up to Double or Nothing, after Hangman Page said that, CM Punk thought, the first opportunity and good opportunity that I have to deliver this receipt, it's exactly what I'm going to do, and it's exactly what he did. And I believe what those people on the AEW roster are saying when they say he heard the comments when he wasn't at the show by Hangman Page, he didn't like it, and he waited. He waited for his opportunity to deliver the receipt, and that's exactly what he did in the biggest possible moment. When it's his first promo since he came back after injury, the first thing he does is call out Hangman Page. That is an unbelievable receipt. Some people will say it's very petty. I myself can be quite petty sometimes, so if anything, I kind of rate it, to be honest. But man, that is chaos on another level, and it certainly is unprofessional, and it certainly is something you don't want to see from your world champion, the guy that prides himself on working with the younger talent. That's not necessarily how you work with the younger talent, but also, again, from Punk's perspective, and you've got to see both sides of this one. From Punk's perspective, he must be like, look, I'm a veteran, I'm established, I'm a big star, and this guy went into business for himself, certainly I think so, and he's disrespecting me, so I'm going to disrespect him back. Now, it is important to note that that is locker room speculation as opposed to Punk telling anyone directly that that's indeed what happened, i.e. about the receipts. Now, from Punk's end of things, and as I mentioned, it is important to consider both sides to all of this, and we are going to get to the walkout stuff in a second, but from Punk's end of things, the Hangman promo had alluded, and this is really, I think, what really got in CM Punk's craw, as it were, alluded to Punk's issues with Colt Cabana and what happened during a week where Punk wasn't at the show while Punk's shot at Hangman Page happened with Hangman present. So again, I think from Punk's perspective, he would say, well, Hangman Page was talking all of this stuff about me that I didn't like and I didn't approve of whilst I wasn't at the show. He was comfortable doing it when I wasn't there. That's a coward, whereas I said it and Hangman Page was at the show. However, you could argue they're just as cowardice because they both were in a situation where they said something knowing that the other guy wasn't able to respond and couldn't respond. They both went into business for themselves. And if you're going to get to the point, well, he did it first, so I did it, then what world are we living in? What world are we living in reality? Because they're both kind of the same situation. Hangman said some stuff about Punk that Punk didn't approve of. Punk wasn't there, so Hangman Page knew, I'm not going to get any blowback for this. Oh, certainly the guys are going to come out and confront me backstage. CM Punk, he said some stuff about Hangman in the ring. He called him out. It's far more direct, it must be said. It's far more direct, and it makes him look far, far, far worse. Hangman Page arguably was just telling the truth when he's alluding to Punk's issues with Colt Cabana, because that's factual. That happened. Hangman Page didn't come out to confront CM Punk because he couldn't, because it's a wrestling show, because it's not real, because it's a scripted show, and Punk knew that. And again, that to me doesn't seem particularly fair. Now, sources familiar with the situation claim that CM Punk has often, and this is where it gets really eye-opening, because all is not well in the eyes of CM Punk in AEW. If you thought that CM Punk was having the time of his life in AEW and all of these interviews that he's done and he's having a great time and he loves to be here and he's part of the project and this is so different from WWE and he's so much happier in AEW than he would be in WWE, maybe time for a little bit of a reality check as to really how happy or unhappy CM Punk is. Sources familiar with the situation claim that CM Punk has often verbally expressed his displeasure, including recently so blatantly that they thought he might end up quitting the company. Let me say that once again. Sources familiar with the situation claim that CM Punk has often verbally expressed his displeasure, including recently so blatantly they thought he might end up quitting the company, i.e. CM Punk recently, and when they say recently, it has to be last week or this week, because that's the only time he's been around, unless he's been having conversations with Tony Khan at the office or anything like that, but I don't know. I think he's been more focused on rehabbing. So when they say recently, it's got to be in the last couple of weeks. CM Punk has been voicing his displeasure so much that it gave off the vibe he wanted to quit. He wanted to leave. You have to be pretty unhappy. And I know CM Punk is an opinionated guy. I know that's kind of the point with CM Punk. I know he loves the stuff he does so much that if he doesn't like what he's doing or he disagrees with a booking decision, he gets so angry, and every hill to him is a hill to die on. That's what it was like in WWE. But you have to be pretty angry and pretty upset to be like, I might quit. I might quit the company. Bear in mind, he's the world champion as well. He has to be pretty unhappy with what's going on there. Now, those close to Punk said he might have almost decided to stay at home instead of coming to the August 17 Dynamite, but don't think he would have quit. So, again, we're looking at a situation, and this is what is wild. This is what is absolutely staggering, isn't it? CM Punk walked out of WWE in 2014. Now, I'm not one of those people that's going to bash CM Punk for walking out in WWE, because frankly, I might have done the same thing. He was burnt out, he was concussed, he was unhappy with that creative environment, which was toxic, with Vince McMahon, with John Laurinaitis, with that corporate structure in that company that needed a refresh for so long, and we only got it this year, and that was because of scandal in WWE. So I might have walked out as well. Frankly, I'm surprised he tolerated it for that long. So I'm not going to blame him. I'm not going to bash him for taking his ball and going home or anything like that. People that did that, I just think, just refuse to acknowledge any kind of context of the situation. But the fact that, what are we now, 8 years removed from that, and he nearly did it again, that's serious stuff. And it does feel like, when you do read all of this is a guy who clearly thinks he knows his worth, and that's fine. He is a big star. He's arguably the biggest star that AEW have under contract in terms of brand recognition, name recognition. I'm not going to say ratings draw, because I don't know if that's accurate. But certainly a name that people know, a name that people like, can draw good houses. The CM Punk return, the first dance at Rampage, sold out the United Center at Aruma. Clearly, there is value in that brand. There is value in that commodity. But clearly, this is also a guy that feels like he should be getting even better treatment than he's getting. And in my opinion, it looks like, certainly from the outside looking in, that CM Punk is treated pretty damn well, it must said. How many times has he lost since he come back? Once? You know, he's very protected. He's very over. He's treated like a big deal. He's the world champion. And he's threatening to quit the company. Well, threatening him. But certainly at points it feels like he's threatening to quit the company. And he might not have even showed up at Dynamite last night. And again, that goes back to my point of those sort of displeasure or feelings of displeasure that he's been voicing has to be in the last couple of weeks. Because it was something would have had to happen in the last 7 days or so for Punk to be like, "Ooh, I don't know if I want to go. I'm very frustrated." Now, Fightful haven't been given any indication that he plans on leaving AEW, but one veteran said they have heard of, quote, threats being levied. And those threats being levied, again, they don't say what they are, but if they're saying threats, it must be a case of, I'll leave. I don't need to be here. I'll quit. I can do other stuff. I'm doing acting. I'm doing this. I didn't wrestle for 7 years, so it doesn't matter. I don't need to be here, blah, blah, blah. And that love that CM Punk said he had found once again with pro wrestling certainly feels like it's vanished very quickly. And I'm not sure what it is, honestly. I don't know. I mean, they don't really go into it. If he's unhappy about the Hangman Page promo, that's one thing. But to be considering quitting the company or, doing threats, that's got to be something, frustrated with creative. I don't know. I really, truly don't know. Now, Fightful was also told that the Moxley versus Punk match for the August 24 episode of AEW Dynamite, of course that's the championship unification match that a lot of people thought was going to be happening at All Out, was a late decision. Now, they haven't been told how late the decision was, and when Fightful asked AEW higher-ups for context, they didn't gain any context. They didn't gain any new information when it comes to that. They haven't learned the crux of what led to Punk's current frustrations, which, as I mentioned, is still unknown, because when you read through it, you go, okay, he's frustrated with the Hangman promo, that's fine, but that's not enough to be threatening to quit the company, or certainly be implying that he could walk out, or he could leave, or he doesn't need to be here. There feels like there is something bigger involved there, and it has to be creative. It has to be creative, it has to be booking, it has to be something that CM Punk has been told, or a plan that CM Punk has been told that he doesn't like and he doesn't agree with. Now, I'm going to have to speculate here, and I don't like to speculate, but to me, that sounds like dropping the championship. It does, or turning heel, maybe, I don't know. But CM Punk has already flexed that card once by saying, look, I'm not losing. I'm not going to lose to Hangman Page. Who's to say he won't do the same to Jon Moxley? I'm not sure. Now, again, we don't know what the frustrations are that would have led to him hypothetically not showing up at Dynamite, whether it be the change in the match, Hangman's jab back in May, or otherwise, we still don't know. And that's ultimately the report. But clearly, all is not well in the world of CM Punk and AEW. Now, it does, when you read a report like that, and you hear that it was a late call, it was a very late call to have Punk versus Moxley, that match happen next week. One could make the assumption that it's a situation where Tony Khan kind of talks him down a little bit off a ledge, but the general consensus is, wow, okay, if you're not happy, then you can take time off, or you can take time away, or you can leave, but you're going to have to drop the belt next week. And Punk didn't want to do it in Chicago. I don't know. We could be. I mentioned Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels. Maybe CM Punk does a situation where he says, I'm not losing in Chicago. Maybe that's what Tony Khan wanted. for CM Punk to lose in Chicago, and he said, no, I'm not losing in Chicago. I'm not doing that. Maybe CM Punk isn't ready to come back. Maybe Punk wanted more time off. I don't know. But as I mentioned, all is not well in the world of CM Punk and AEW. I'm not sure how this gets resolved. I'm sure we'll find out more details about it, because the fact that all of this has come out, and it's a lot, people will be talking. And I wouldn't be shocked, to be honest with you, if Punk addresses it on social media or even next week on Dynamite. I mean, the smartest thing that AEW could do is certainly play into it. And you could have a situation where maybe Punk and MJF are now on the outs of AEW. But I don't believe, like the MJF situation, that was a reality that was turned into work. I think this is reality, it must be said. So this is very interesting. Of course, if we get any more information, we'll talk about it here on the channel. So be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right hand corner. And I'll speak to you again very, very soon. Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.